Okay, I'm Todd Hetty. I'm here with Cynthia Hetty and Cyrus the dog.
He'll be in and out, I'm sure, most of this time.
So today we're here to talk about Cynthia's adventure in the Moab 240. That's right, she ran 240 miles. Go figure.
Oh, it was awesome. It was totally awesome. But to clarify, it's not a race. It was more like a journey. It is a race for some people, I'm sure, that are in the top few people that probably went out thinking they might win this thing. And there were people who actually do, like Courtney Dauwalter a couple years ago, the guy from France this year that ran so well, and David Goggins, who did great. But for me, it was more of a journey. 240 miles, something I had never done before. And I really wanted to try it, just to see how it would go. And so, anyway, it was pretty cool.
Well, I think when you talk about what people think, whether they think it's a race or think it's a journey, I think what a lot of people would like to know is, what the hell were you thinking when you signed up for something like this? Was that chemically induced or?
Partly, I do like margaritas and wine, but no, actually. I really wanted to do this race for several years. A couple years ago, I don't know if it was after Courtney ran or maybe the year before, and I watched a video, and the video showed the people running across the top of Moab, on these rocks, and I don't know, I've never been in the desert, and it was just something that drew me, and I thought, I wonder if I could do that, it was just something I wanted to do. So for several years, my password at work for everything was Moab 218, Moab 219, and just to sort of like make it my goal. But when it came time to sign up, I just couldn't commit because I really didn't know what it would take to run 240 miles. And it's a pretty big price tag. So I just kept putting it off there. Oh, well, then maybe I don't really want to do it. So that was really my background to it. And then, as a lot of you all who are here watching this probably knows, in December we had our house burned down. And we lost a lot of things. And our life was kind of in a little whirlwind for a little while. And on January 1st, registration opened up for Moab. And Todd actually said to me, if you're ever going to do it, now is probably the time. Because we really had nothing to hold us back. We didn't have anything. So if I was ever going to do it, then 2020 would be the time. So on January the 1st, after Hangover Classic, one of our races, we went out and ate. And while we're sitting there eating with the boys, I signed up. And I never thought another thing about it. I didn't even read about it. I didn't do anything. I just closed the book and said, it's done. I signed up. So that's how that began, and that was maybe a lack of thinking, but it was something I just wanted to do, and on the spur of the moment I did it.
Well, good deal. Before we get on with any other questions, just a tip for you guys at home. If you're ever making a video like this, it's probably a good idea not to give away your passwords. Just saying.
Well, it's not Moab anymore because
So walk us through a little bit about the... Well, I know you had some interesting challenges getting ready for it other than just the normal training. Tell them a little bit about that.
Well, so I normally am a person who likes to do high mileage. So I wasn't really, I don't know how much high mileage is for 240, but, for me, 70 to 90 miles a week would be like something that I would aspire to do or want to do. And I could... think I can hit that 100-mile mark if I need to, and because it's something I really like to do. So I think in the beginning of the year, it was like, I'm thinking it's okay, but then I went to Jordan, the country, with my aunt, which is a beautiful spot, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But when I came home on the beginning of March, that's when COVID had hit, and they had closed Israel from COVID, and I came back, and within a few days of being home, I wasn't well. And we weren't really testing here at that time, and I couldn't get tested. I tried several times, but not knowing, I don't really know what happened. Eventually, I was okay to go to work, but what happened in the long term is I couldn't run. I would go out, and I could do I could walk, and I was fine with walking. But I would get up and I would go like a tenth of a mile, and I would be so winded. I would just be out of breath, and I would have to walk up a hill. And this, every day I got up and I tried again, and I was like, I really couldn't figure out, well, I had no idea really what was happening to me, but I had signed up to do that race across Tennessee virtually, where you had to do so many miles. So I would go out every day and do my walking miles, and I would try to run, and then I would walk, and it was pretty devastating. Eventually, the doctor did my blood work, and my hemoglobin was really low. So anyway, this whole thing took about probably till end of July before I could actually run again. And the first time I went out and I ran like 2 miles, I thought, I am back. That's what kept going through my head. I'm back. And the crazy thing is it was only 2 miles, but I was so happy. It didn't even matter. It's just funny how when you can't do something and then all of a sudden you can, how happy it makes you. So that's the drawback that I had. So honestly, I never thought that this race would happen. And because I thought COVID would probably cancel it out. And then I thought, well, even if it does, I'll transfer it. And I'm not going to do it this year. But I guess in the back of my head, I kept thinking, well, what if? What if? And so my friend Ed had a entry to that breaks 45-mile race, and he called me and said, Cynthia, I have this entry that I can't do the race, and I don't know anybody else would do it, so I transferred it to you. So I went and did it, and same thing, this was September, I had only been running maybe a month, and I went and did it, and honestly, I went slow enough, it wasn't a race or anything, that I felt good. And afterwards, when I got through with that, I know it kind of went through my head, maybe I can do this race. I still thought that I would transfer it though, but when I went online and looked, that I had missed the transfer date and I couldn't get back my money or anything. So I had about 3 weeks, and I said, Todd, I think I might go do that race. And because I can't get my money back, I can't do anything, maybe I should just try it. And it's kind of last minute, but that was how that happened.
So you go through this, your training wasn't optimal, let's say.
No, it was terrible.
So let's fast forward those 3 weeks and tell us about the race itself.
Oh my God. So the race is absolutely beautiful, and Candace, the race director, does a great job. I think she really paid attention to detail, like the aid stations were phenomenal. But so I started off when I got there. Okay, so to back it up, I probably at this point with 3 weeks to go, I told several different people they could come if they wanted to, because everybody can have a crew, and you can also not just have a crew, but you can also have a pacer with you. And so, of course, I didn't have very many takers at the very last minute because there's not much time. And Todd, who would have come with me, we ended up having a triathlon that day, and so he could not come. He had to work the triathlon. So I had to plan to go by myself. And if anybody knows me, the biggest problem I'm obviously going to have, other than the fact that I was undertrained, is my ability to follow a map or technology. So they had used this thing called Gia Maps. So you took the map of the course and you put it onto your telephone. And I guess if you were really smart, you could do it to your watch. I don't know that yet. But I did get it on my phone. And it took me a while because I really didn't want to ask anybody how to do it, because I've needed, I think, to learn to do it myself. So I watched some videos. Took a long time, but I got it on the phone. Well, then there's a little button you push that has a little arrow that shows where you are among that map. And I thought, okay, this is genius. So all I have to do while I'm running is turn the phone on, as long as it stays charged, and find that little arrow, and I'll know if I'm on course or not. So that sounds relatively simple. And that is a really good plan. So anyway, So I'll go fly out to Denver, and I drive myself from Denver to Moab. And on Thursday you check in, and when you check in, They want to make sure that you know how to use the map, that physically everything's okay. So, you're in good shape or whatever. And so, all that was easy enough. Then you have your drop bags. Well, since I was by myself, they had a sleep station. And the sleep station they had 4 sleep stations among this race. And so you packed your sleeping bag and your blanket and whatever you needed for sleep, and they would take it to each one of those sleep stations for you. So I went back to my hotel and I got my little suitcase and I put all my sleeping stuff in there for that. And so anyway, that was easy enough. And then the next morning I get there and it's time for the race to start. And I'm standing there and they're getting ready to start the race. And they mentioned the tracker you're supposed to have on your arm. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot the tracker. 1 minute before the race, I had to run up and go get the tracker. And they were like, oh, we wondered if you were here. I'm like, oh my God, I'm here. And they put it on me and then bam, off you go. And so that was the beginning of the race. And so I started the race and I ran with some guy, who is a really nice guy. He actually did that race across Tennessee in 17 days at like 1,000 miles. So, and he was talking a mile a minute. He was really nice. And he was I think he was from Tennessee or somewhere about there. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe not. But anyway, so many things go through your head because there was a lady that was running next to me and she tripped. And I remember thinking to myself, maybe we're going too fast. She might be going too fast because if right now we're at mile 5 and you're falling, we're probably trying too hard because we got a long way to go. Anyway, so the day goes on, and it actually turned out to be a really nice day because you can't have a pacer until mile 72, and so the first sleep station is at mile 72. So I knew my plan obviously was, with no crew anywhere, I'm going on to mile 72. So I just met different people along the way and talked to them, and I met some really wonderful people, and I think I had some great conversations. We talked about everything. And so, and then the last 30 miles, I met a girl named Christy, and we actually walked for the last 30 miles, ran until we got there. And she actually had a crew and pacer waiting for her, which I hated because I thought I could have spent the whole race with her. But I think she went on and finished in the top, and I was so excited for her. So she did really well. But when I got to mile 72, my friend Randy met me there, which was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting it, and I got to curl up in her car and sleep for a while because it was warm. She put my sleeping bag in there, so it was nice.
And this all happened the first day?
Yes, that's day 1. Yes, day 1. So I divided my time up by the sleep stations. I knew since I was running by myself, I was going sleep station to sleep station. So Randy, she is a girl that I met actually in Colorado when I did Leadville in 2012, I think. She was camping next to me at this campsite called Sugarloafing, and we became friends. And so over the years, Randy has always lived in Colorado. She's lived in one of the Sprinter vans. She has a tiny house. I mean, Randy's like a nomad, and she goes wherever. But every time I've ever gone to Colorado or to Wasatch or to California, any race I've ever done, she shows up. Just shows up. And she knows exactly what to do, and we've become dear friends, and that is the only time I ever see her. I mean, it just goes to show you what a beautiful community we have of runners and these people, and so anyway, it was really nice. I could have slept outside in my sleeping bag, which I had originally planned to do, but Randy's Prius with heat was really nice, so I was quite excited about that. So then, got any questions, or I'll just keep going?
Oh, I've got all kinds of questions, but you can just keep going.
Okay, so then the second day, so I got in there about 4 in the morning, and that would have been Saturday morning, and I probably slept until 7. I got up, and I got that pack, which I got to tell you, the pack is heavy. They have a lot of mandatory gear. And I know it's worth it, but the whole time my little body's thinking, I wish I could get rid of all this water and food because it was really heavy. But they check you along the way. Like one aid station I went to, the man said, "How much food are you carrying?" He looked and he said, "You have to have 2,000 calories." And he brought all this food in front of me and said, "Start picking it up and put it in that pack." So I'm like, okay. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so heavy. How can this be? How can this be? How did this happen? How come I didn't get away from this man? Anyway, he was very nice. I don't mean that, but it was a lot of stuff to carry. It was like, I just didn't want to carry one more thing. Anyway, the second day I started off and it was hot. Like the first day, probably 62 people dropped out because it was like 90 degrees. And then you're up in these mountains and you're in the desert and that hot sun comes down and it's like there is no escape. It was really, really hot. And the first day, I don't think it bothered me so much. And the second day, there were parts of it that seemed to me that were very, very hot. But I met a lot of people that day too in the beginning, and I enjoyed it. And then I'm trying to think, was that the second day? Oh yeah. No. The second day was like flat desert. And I am walking, and it's like, oh my gosh, this will not end. It's like I needed an oasis of water somewhere. We all did. It was so hot, and there was no water anywhere. In the first 16 miles, everybody's just melting. And I get to that aid station, and people are there with like so many blisters on their feet, and knee problems, and heat problems. And the lady that was the doctor there, it was really cool. She was supposed to be doing the race, and turned out she had cancer, and so there she was there working and serving the people because she had her last chemotherapy. I mean, it was the people you met and the stories were I was just blown away. But I began to feel a little nauseated then, I think from the heat, and they gave me some pickle juice, which I don't really like. I can tell you, after I walked away, I thought that did not settle well in my stomach. So when I saw a place, like I found a bush under a rock. I mean, the bush is like this high. It's really small, and there's not much shade there. But I went and stood under it. I laid right under it and said, I'm just going to lay here for a few minutes. There was just no shade anywhere. And I did that all the way until nighttime came, because it was a struggle fest till the sun went down. And then the sun goes down, and we come to this place. I'm at this aid station, and once again, I still didn't feel well because I'd been off that whole hot day. But when I got there, I said, I've got to lay down for a few minutes because my stomach just didn't feel well. So I did, but then I got up, and I thought, I've got to go. I'm going to have to leave. And I was scared to death at this point because I lost my glasses. That meant that on my phone, that map, I couldn't see it. It also meant I couldn't see the arrow where I was supposed to be. And I had no idea how I was going to lead myself because from there, it's Mount Shea, I think, and it was the hardest climb. There was one that was steeper, and they said was harder, but this was absolutely the hardest. And it was, probably 12 hours in the dark climbing this mountain up and down in these riverbanks. And if you don't know where you're going, I lost a lot of time too. And anyway, point is, inside I was really scared at this point. Like, I'm not sure how I'm going to navigate this. So I tried to find somebody to go. I'm like, anybody going? But all the guys I was sitting there with, are dropping out and not going on. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to go. I just can't sit here. I have to go. So I got up and I just headed off by myself. And then I thought, oh gosh. Then it got right to the woods, and I was scared to go in. I thought, oh, once I'm in, I've committed to this. I'm on my own. And I knew I had to do it because, that's sort of the name of the game. You really have to overcome your fears. And my fear was just being lost out there by myself, which is a real possible thing. So I went in, and I found a guy and a girl they were much slower going than I was, but I thought, well, I do not care what pace anybody's going. I said, you all care if I hang with you all? And he goes, oh no, we're all inclusive. So I went with them for a while, and they were really neat. She had lost 170 pounds. Then she learned to run, and she qualified for Boston on her first marathon. He was a meth and cocaine addict that then became completely sober and ended up a really rich, I don't know, whatever he does. Anyway, it was just, their stories were, and the fact that they just told me these things right off the bat was just sort of sets the mood of not only the type of people that were there, but the openness of them. And I thought, okay, I'm going to really enjoy this. But then we kept going, and he fell to the ground and started throwing up. And he looked at me, he said, I have to have my pacer to myself. And I said, I got it. Okay. It was really nice meeting you all. I'll see you later. And then I'm going on. I'm thinking, oh, please, God, let me find somebody else. And so then I ran into 3 other boys, young men, and they were really going pretty fast. And so I thought, oh, this is a great pace. You all care if I just tag along behind you? And so I did for a while, but then 2 of them wanted to sit down and rest. And they were very nice, Jonathan and a guy from Vancouver, and they had totally different stories. But then there was this guy, I think he was from Maryland or something. I followed him because he was actually the fastest one. But then he got lost. And I said, well, I got the map, but I can't see it. And anyway, he started cussing. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, as it went on, I met another young man named Chase. And I settled upon Chase, and Chase and I then finished off the night together. And Chase was a 28-year-old kid from Michigan that's an engineer. He's originally from South Korea, and he was adopted. And his little watch beeped if we were off course, which I loved. He really wanted to, he was like, you've got to go on, because he was tired. He didn't want to keep going. He wanted to rest. So eventually I kept him going. We took a bunch of 7-minute naps. So this is what we would do. We would lay down on the ground. We would set the timer for 7 minutes, and we would sleep. And then we would get up, and then we would get going. And anyway, when we came to the end of that, because that was a major downhill, and then, I mean, like miles downhill. And then we had to go miles uphill. It was like, I've just never seen anything quite like that. And when we got to the top of this, we're at that second, I guess that's the second sleep station. And when we got there, his parents were standing there. They had flown in and just gotten there from Grand Junction. And who's standing there with them but my friend Chris and Chloe, who met his parents on the airplane. And they were talking to each other, and they said, it was just funny because they said, I wonder if they've crossed paths. And here, the 2 of us were together, and they had just met. Isn't that funny? It was a sweet story. So that was the second night. You have something you want to say?
No.
Oh, you can interject if you want to, because I'm kind of just rambling here and just telling you the thing. Is it too much?
No, I'm used to it. This is what you do. So
No,
tell your story your way. Drink your margarita.
I drink my margarita.
This is how these things usually get started. I know how the stories go about them.
Oh my gosh, but is it too much? I mean, the truth is it was a wonderful journey, but maybe people don't really want to know all this detail. Is it too much detail?
No, it's your story. You tell it.
Okay. So the next day, I slept some in Randy's van, got up the next day, and then I head back out, and Chloe runs with me then for the next 17 miles, which was really nice to have a person there. And it was beautiful because that terrain was open and it was hot, but it was on rocks and it was slightly downhill. So we were up on top, and so we're running down for about 17 miles. And so, which is perfect. Chloe's a great downhill runner, and I love to run downhill. So I felt really good at that point. And I think we did really well. And then when we got to the bottom of that, Chris and Randy were there. And at that aid station, we reloaded, and then Chris took off with me. And unfortunate for Chris, that next section seemed like this this tiny dirt road that was kind of slightly uphill for probably 26 miles. And so it was really hot and kind of slow going. So, but it was nice to have company at that point, because that was just, it was like an open plains or prairies. It was beautiful, but totally different from where we had just come from. And so when we got Chris and I, and it was at that point that night, I started to get really, really tired when the sun went down, and I think I would be running and I'd start stumbling. I was actually running with my eyes closed, you know, and I'd jerk my eyes open, and I'd say, okay, Chris, I got to take a 7-minute nap. And, you know, poor Chris, I think she was just standing there waiting for me, but I'd lay down right on the side of the road, say, wake me up in 7 minutes, and I'd be out just like that. But it made all the difference, because I started to hallucinate, like I was seeing a blanket like waving in the wind right at my eyesight, and I was just following this blanket. And but once I closed my eyes, then the blanket would go away, and then I saw mounds of trash everywhere, which were actually just rocks. And you know, my vision cleared up with all that sleep. And so when we got to the third night, I got back in that Prius and slept for 2 or 3 hours. And when I woke up, Jerry was there. And I headed back out, and everybody left. And then Jerry was with me on the last day. So...
but now you were running on your own.
Yeah.
Jerry would have liked to have paced you, but having only one person, he had to be with the vehicle and drive forward with it.
Right. Which... actually, in the end, it turned out perfect. He thought about it. He tried to figure it out. He actually, God bless him, he went and bought me a pair of glasses, because I still had the major climb to come on Monday. Monday afternoon would be the hardest climb, and through that night, and it would have been wonderful to be able to see. And he went and bought glasses, but he didn't have a way to bring them to me. So which I didn't actually even know that until afterwards, but it was very kind of him to go, and he knew I needed them to go get them. But Chloe, everybody else had to go home, so they did. And Jerry, then I went on my way, and
now I think it's just to interject that the aid stations were usually 15 miles apart to 20 miles apart, but even at that, it's such a remote area that most of them were crew inaccessible unless you had a big 4-wheel drive vehicle, right? So your crew was only able to get to few of the aid stations, right?
The only time I ever saw anybody was at the sleep stations.
Yeah.
So the sleep stations, they drove up, and you know, in hindsight, that was actually, although it could have been fine, you know, I could have used my glasses earlier. If somebody could have ran with me through the night, that would have been lovely. But in all honesty, what I needed most is what I got, and I was quite blessed with that, because it was very cold. So to have a warm vehicle that you could actually crawl in the back of and sleep for a couple hours, it's like, oh my God, it was such heaven. So anyway, yeah, I was really happy. So the fourth day and that night, the beginning of the day was totally fine. And I remember that when I got to that aid station after like the first 20 miles, and I sat there, the people I met there were really neat. There was a guy that told me he just finished talking to his mom, and I think he was crying. And I remember afterwards, I should have asked him. I don't know if she was alive. Like, you know, it was just one of those things. Like, I don't know. There was no reception. And I thought, was he talking? Anyway, I should have asked him, but I didn't. And then there was another girl who had lost 100 pounds that started running. What?
How do you approach somebody you've never met? You just walk up to them and go, "So, is your mama dead?" How is that?
No. I was just thinking, because when my mind goes so I've made this a big drawn out thing, but I can tell you the crunch of it is, it was a blessing to me to have Jerry there on the last night at the sleep station. When I got there, finally got to that point, he had a pallet set up, made me some scrambled eggs, and it was off for the last day. And so I was very happy to have that. I think that was the most important thing there. And then I headed off on the last day myself, as I had been. And really, that was a downhill, like, single track place for a while, which is what I absolutely love the most. But this is where I came to what I really wanted. You know, I came on this journey, or wanted to do it, because I feel like my whole life has been like the center of that onion, and layers and layers and layers have all been put on top of it. And it's all because of me. Other people don't put the layers upon us, but I run so fast from one thing to the next, or things I have to do, that after a while you kind of lose yourself. And I really wanted to peel back the layers. I wanted to see what was underneath, because that's a scary thing. No, to me. Now, other people may live completely different, but I think it's scary to see who you are and to face, or I have felt that way. And I've never really understood why. I had a good life. I was never abused, nothing ever happened to me in life. I was always loved. But there's some fear of seeing, or even being, or speaking who I am. And I wanted to see that. And on that last day, I felt like I got there. It was like diving really deep into the ocean and looking. And I wanted to be afraid. Well, I was kind of afraid, but at the same time, I don't think it even mattered anymore. It was like, okay, what am I to do now? Really, I'm just to let go. Just let it be open. You know, you have this, it'll, whatever it is, will heal itself. So anyway, it made me very, very happy. I saw things that I didn't expect to see, and to me, the whole race was made right in that moment. And so I felt like I found what I came for. Now, coming back up, and after peeling back all those layers, they all just sort of flop back on top of each other, and you think, okay, I don't know what you really do with all that when you see it, but everyone's different. But it brought me a great peace, and made me very happy. So that was really my whole trip to Moab. A lot more happened though afterwards, but I don't know if anybody wants to know about all that. But it's yeah, that was what it was about. Any questions?
Well, now, so you had this epiphany that you were looking for, but I think one of the important things is, after that, you've been out there 4 days and however many hours. This is when I speak to you on the phone, and you hadn't had any real issues other than the time you were sick up until this point where you started having the issue with the blisters and the leaning and the everything.
Mm-hmm. The last 16 miles, I had no issues. So that brought me up to the last 16 miles were probably the hardest physically, and really the only physical time I had any problem. But and I couldn't believe it before the aid station at 16 miles. I had to stop. My foot was hurting so bad, and I took my shoes and socks off, and I had these huge blisters. So I left my socks off, and I popped the blisters, and I thought, oh my gosh, but they hurt so bad. So when I got to the aid station, the lady there cleaned up my feet and my blisters, and I couldn't get the shoe back on. So I took a pair of scissors, and I cut the sides out of my shoes like sandals, because my feet, they hurt so bad and I couldn't believe it. I have 16 miles to go, and this is what's happening. It was crazy. But I was, of course, in a great mood, because I had hours upon hours to get that 16 miles done. And it was downhill. It should have been my time to be able to run. But my feet really hurt. And then I took off, and then I don't know what happened. I got really, sloppy. my feet, I was sliding. I couldn't really. People went by me and said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." I'm thinking, I'm a great downhill runner. I can do this. But I got a cramp in my side and I started leaning. And so I had to use my poles to hold myself from falling over that ledge. And when I got through with that race, I couldn't stand up. And it got worse that night, and then I kind of lost my vision. All these crazy things happened. And I'm pretty sure, it was, I think I was overheated and I was hyponatremic. I didn't have enough salt in my body, and I think that was really what caused it. And so, it was scary. That was definitely a scary time, but I lived through it. I'm back home and I'm normal. So I don't know, but I think it's something that people need to, because I've seen people lean before when they've been in races or like long races, and if you look it up and read about it, it talks about your core strength or whatever. It is not your core strength. This is definitely an imbalance that has to do with your electrolytes and water. And somehow it affects your brain, I think, because I could hear the water swishing in my brain when I lay down. And it happened to an Olympian one time, and she had a heat stroke, and they had to cool her off with ice water. So I'm not exactly sure what happened, but it is not something as simple as you need to do sit-ups. I think for me, it had to do with... I'm a big believer in that vegetable broth. I am a broth human being when it comes to racing because it's so salty. And up until the last day, I had 3 or 4 cups, like at a time, at different aid stations. But the last day, and Jerry did say, "You want some of that broth?" I'm like, "No, my gosh, I've had so much broth." And I'm thinking, I got not that far to go. And but that was my fault because I think I could have helped myself not have so many problems had I had some of that broth, maybe. Anyway, it's something very worth looking into.
So what's next?
I don't know. You know, I think a Tour de France, if anybody knows that race, it's in Italy. But I don't think yet. I'm not there. You know, I really just got to learn to run again.
So when do you run out of stupid stuff to do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, you do the 100 milers, just normal 100 milers, and you go, "Hey, let's go run up around Mont Blanc," because like that's the next step. And then you go, "Oh, let's go run 240 miles." So is there like a pinnacle to the stupid stuff, and then you just come back down and start doing normal stuff again, or?
I don't know. What do you think? I'm married to you, so what's your opinion?
So basically, you don't do anything normal.
Probably not. You know, I'd love when I turn 60 to do Western States in 24 hours. That is something I think would be really cool, because that would be more normal, but having to really learn to push the pace. Of course, it requires me getting into the race, which wouldn't be 2021, but I guess 2022, because, right? Yeah, so if I could, that would be something I'd like to do. But I really don't know, because everything takes on a different meaning, you know, like for me this, I think doing another 200 miler, I can totally see it. The hallucinations are kind of cool, like, I don't know if you did some great.
You know, I can buy you stuff that'll create hallucinations. You don't need to go out and do this stuff.
No, but it is kind of like a trip. There is something that just happens after some sleep deprivation for so long. And I would never have known that. And I stay up all the time if it wasn't for this. So I wouldn't mind experiencing this again. Maybe not Tahoe, maybe Bigfoot. I think at Washington I would enjoy doing. But I don't know. You know, life isn't always about me. So I have to, you know, do what's good for you inside. So we'll see what happens.
She only says that because she's on video.
No, I say that all the time anyway.
Okay, well, let's wrap this up. I know it's been a long video, so we'll wrap it up. And thanks everybody for watching it, and we'll keep you posted on Cynthia's further adventures. Thanks a lot.